Hello! Today in my studio, I'm going to be showing you how to mount a piece of linen to a board. So I've actually prepared all the materials here. In a bit, I'll flip the camera so you can kind of see how I do it and what I'm doing. So when I say that mount a piece of linen to a board, that means your piece of linen here and then how you attach that to a hard surface. So, and this is something that has been requested for me to do for quite a while, and I've kind of forgotten about it. It's sort of been sitting dormant in the back of my head for a long time. And the other day I was seeing just a pile of linen and fabric, and I kind of remembered just that request, numerous requests for that. So I thought this would be a great opportunity for a video and showing the process of this. So I personally, this is my favorite type of surface to paint on, because you have the advantage of having linen or canvas, whatever your preferred kind of fabric to paint on is, and maybe you prefer a different kind of surface, but this is specific to painting on cotton canvas or linen canvas, and how you mount that to a board. But it gives the advantage of having a hard surface, so you can be just a little bit more rough and physical with your painting surface. I personally use my palette knife a lot when I paint. I scrape out, I use it to create edges, and I don't ever have to worry about kind of denting my canvas if it was stretched over stretchers. So that's one big advantage of having a hard surface, is that it just gives a little bit more freedom with that. And I personally I just really like it. It's also what I've been using for a long time now. I started out using stretch canvas. I would make my own because we were required to, the art school that I went to. And then the second art school I went to, this is what we did, and I absolutely love it. So I will share it with you and show you. All right, so these are kind of the basic materials needed for mounting linen to canvas. And that is one of the most important things that you need, is just an adhesive. And specifically, you want to get a pH neutral adhesive. And this looks very well loved, because it is. I've actually had this for a very long time. I can't even tell you how many years ago I got it. So all that to say, it's really lasted me a long time. I just got it at a local art shop. And I'll link below one that you can get. Maybe if I find multiple different ones that you can look at, I'll link those. But that's very important, because you don't want to get acidic glue, because over time it will yellow your painting, and it will just increase the deterioration rate of your work of art. And that's something you really want to put time and effort into making everything that you do very archival, because you spend a lot of time painting and just working on your projects. And so the best thing you can do is just get good supplies that are archival, and starting with just pH neutral glue. And here you want to, this specifically says to shake it well before you use, so we will do that before we use it. But next, you just need your piece of material, and you can do this if this could be gessoed, it could be primed, and we could still mount this to board. Very often I do that. I actually, more recently, I've been using primed canvas, because I've been getting a lot of pre-primed linen lately, and not as much gessoing it myself. I've been getting oil primed linen, and so I've been doing a lot of that myself, kind of doing it where it's already primed and then putting on the board. But you can also just put raw linen or canvas, cotton canvas, on board and then prime it, and that's actually, both are just as good. There's not one that's better than the other. Both are just as good, and I used to, for most of my time as a painter, I've done it this way, where I first mount it and then I prime it. Then you just want some water and some sort of rag of some sort, and then just a brush. And wider is better, something that isn't so expensive that you don't mind getting some glue on, but of course we will be washing it afterwards, so we can reuse it. You don't want to just keep the glue on it, because then you won't be able to use it again. So way we start here is I shake this as the directions said to do. And here I'll just kind of put some on. I sort of just kind of swirl a little bit. I don't really have any specific way of how I put it on, but I do try to work quickly because it can start to dry up sooner than later. And I just honestly take the tiniest amount of water and then I start to just spread it around. So that the purpose of the water is just to help to make it a little liquefy. It's just ever so slightly more so that it's more easily spreadable. Should I say more easy to spread? And we will add more here because I feel like this does need a little bit more. And sometimes kind of when I get it on at the end, I do some of the corners, and you will see that as I get around to that, but we do want some more here. So I'll add some more, and again, trying to work quickly with this as I go. And you can kind of tell when you need a little bit of water, when it starts to feel a little bit gummy, then that's when you want to add some water, when it has a bit of a gummy texture, because that means that it's starting to dry a little bit, and you'll just be able to feel that. Again, don't worry if kind of some of the edges just around the corners or the edges of the board don't have much glue on them, because you can kind of fix that, and I'll kind of show you what I mean kind of when we get around to that. Okay, so I think we're good. I'll just kind of wet it just a little bit. I might add a little bit more glue. And again, we are flattening it just so that it does lie flat. We don't get kind of bumps in the surface. Okay, so we're good. Now, I'm just gonna cover this over here. Okay, good. And I cut my piece just bigger than the size of the actual board so that I wouldn't have any problem kind of getting it covered and could do it quickly. So here you can see I'm using my finger now to really press. I'm just using my hand as a press here, really pressing down to get it to, oh, you see there's like a little bump there. You don't want that to happen. Just to, and while you're kind of stretching it out, kind of going in all directions here, is helping it to adhere to the surface. All right, so I think we're kind of, that's sort of what it looks like. So it's pretty simple, the whole process. And again, this is what we want. We want some to be left over on the edge. We will cut that and get it to be just razor sharp against the edge of the board. And I'll show you in a bit how we do that. But before that, we will pay attention to some of the edges here. Like you can see that it hasn't quite adhered to the edges, and we will fix that. So what we can do, I might actually lay this down so that I don't get glue on my table. I do like my table, so I'll put this down here. It is a studio table, so I understand I will get some paint on here and there, but for the most part, I do like to keep this one fairly free from paint and other things. All right, so. So you can see here, I put kind of a little bit. This is actually probably a very generous amount of glue. You can tell, like I said, I got this glue a very long time ago. So if it costs a little bit more, I think this pH glue does cost a bit more than other kind of glues. Don't be put off by that because it will last you quite a long time. So that's, yeah, it'll be with your supplies for a bit, and you'll get good mileage out of it. And if you do ever want to do bookbinding, you can use this for bookbinding. I've never done bookbinding before, but that's it does look kind of fun. Okay, so then that's kind of what you do. You press down on the edges. And don't be afraid too if, like here, I did have a little bit of glue kind of seep through the linen. That's totally fine. Because again, we're dealing with just acid-free glue. And so we don't have to worry about any yellowing or anything like that happening with this. So that's totally a-okay, but that's a sign I used maybe a little bit too much glue. So again, don't go overboard with the amount that you put on. Just kind of put on what you think is needed. So here, putting on some there, some of the edge here. Don't think I need water for this because it's, again, we don't have to work in such a hurried manner because we're just dealing with small areas at the moment. We're good there. Yeesh. Yeah, I put on a lot of glue there. I might just wipe off. Use my rag, paper towel here to wipe off. All right. Okay, so now I'm gonna go over here. So now everything has dried, and you can tell if it has dried or not. I mean, it depends upon what kind of glue you are getting, what brand or whatnot. But here it was white, and now it's kind of dried clear. So my glue dries clear, so you can kind of see. That's a way to tell when it is dry. And it'll depend upon how long it takes to dry. Will just depend upon how humid or dry your air is. And for me, it took about 20-ish minutes. So just kind of let it sit for a bit, and then you can get to it. So here I have a cutting mat that I'm using, and I have a box cutter to do this. That is how we're going to cut off this, because this will give it a really nice clean edge. Don't use the scissors because that really is not going to get it right up to the edge, because you want to kind of have right up to the razor edge for it to look really just nice and clean. And do not do this, of course, on your regular tabletop, because it is going to really damage it. So that's why you need a special mat that you can cut things on. If you don't have one, maybe you could use just your kitchen kind of cutting board. That is something that could work. Depends upon how big it is, because very often your painting might be larger than your cutting board. So yeah, just kind of these are very easy to find and purchase. So if you don't have one, I do recommend having one on hand. All right, so here what's important is to have this really close to the edge. So I'm going to keep this and kind of in a way press it up against the edge, so that it kind of using that support of the board to bring it in. But at the same time, you don't, of course, want it to slip and kind of then go over, so that you just want it to cut off what's right up against the edge there. And what helps is actually to press down with your fingers, with your hands, to kind of put weight on the board so that it really is firmly down on the surface, so that your blade doesn't kind of slip and then get into the area of the linen. So, all right, so here we go. It can feel a little stressful at first, but it really isn't that big of a, it's not that hard. You'll get it. All right, so I will press it against the board and kind of pressing down on the board as I do this cut here. Try to make it as clean as possible. And you do want to make sure that your blades are, it looks like I'm gonna go off the table. Don't want it to flip on me here. Make sure that your blades are really sharp and new, because you don't want to use a dull blade, because it'll just make the whole process more difficult. All right, so you can see here just how nice and sharp that is. Got a good cut there. And again, don't worry about if you do have some glue that seeped through, because again, this is going to be primed over. You're going to be gestoing over this, and that isn't going to be an issue at all whatsoever. So don't worry about that. Then we're going to just do the same thing on the each side of this. All right, so there we go. So we got all 4 sides, and I did notice here's an area where there's just a little bit showing there. I'm gonna go back and cut that, and you can just kind of double check around to see if certain areas are kind of cut well enough. And that is actually part of that illustrates why it's important to have a very sharp blade. This actually could be a little sharper, and also I could have pressed down a little bit more, so be sure to press down enough and then also a sharp blade. But it's not a big deal if that happens to you, because just go back and go over that again. All right, so here we've kind of finished, and I do have, this is something that I'm glad this is actually happening here, so I can show it to you, and because it might happen to you too. So there's this little bits of just canvas threads showing through here, linen threads, and you can take very fine scissors, cut those, or you can use some glue and kind of glue them down. Here we go. Take just a small amount of glue, put my finger, and kind of settle them down. Again, this isn't a big deal unless, like, if you plan to put your painting in a frame where there's some space in between kind of the painting and then the frame being here, a floating frame, then you wouldn't want this. And this actually is more likely to happen if you are mounting a unprimed piece of linen, which is what we are doing here. And so of course then the threads are going to kind of splay a little bit more than if it was primed. If it was primed, then this would be all those threads would adhere, they'd be kind of stuck together, if that makes sense. Versus here, they're kind of once they're cut, then it has more of a potential to fray slightly. So here, but we're doing this is working really well to kind of, again, this is the beauty of using acid-free glue, in that obviously we don't want to put it everywhere. We want this to be primed properly, but it gives you license to be able to use it in this way, and kind of creating a really good smooth edge. And that's what we're doing here. And you really want to create a really good professional clean edge on your painting. Now, I do hope that you try this on your own and mount some of your linen, canvas, whatever fabric you like to use on a board. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. But before I leave, I want to show you some things that I actually found recently at a thrift store. As you can see behind me is my bookcase, and I put them by here, but I got these reliefs. I actually got them for $5 a piece, $5 a piece, which is a great deal. And I was very excited because they are replicas of Lorenzo Ghiberti. He is a sculptor back in Florence, and he, for any of you who have been to Florence, know of I'm sure many of you are aware of the door to the baptistry in Florence. He sculpted a bunch of different images on the door, and in like between 1426 and 1452, I think those are the right dates. Not don't quote me on it. These are replicas of that particular portion of kind of that door area in Florence, and the Duomo, which is the main church in Florence. And I have 3 of them. I found 3 of them, which is awesome. These aren't exact replicas of Lorenzo Ghiberti, but an artist created replicas, and then these were made of those replicas. So it's kind of funny, replicas of a replica. But I do hope to maybe make paintings from these, just kind of as a fun sort of study. And I love sculpture. I love relief sculpture especially. So I thought you'd enjoy. This is one of them. The title, I don't speak Italian, so I'm not gonna try to pronounce the title of this because it's in Italian in the back. But these are all biblical scenes, because obviously a lot of art in that time period was very biblical, because a lot of it was created for the church. And here's another piece right here. You can kind of see. It doesn't really come across on camera just how cool these are. And here's my third one. So maybe in the future, I'll show you some paintings from these relief sculptures. If you have any questions, again, I already said it, but just leave them in the comment section below. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.